Hey, hey. How's everybody doing today? Let's see, who do we have on board here? Sorry for the late start here. Always having some technical stuff getting rolling there. All right, are we coming through? Or are we loud and clear? Let me know if we can see me. Okay. Hey, everybody. All right, so got some fun stuff to dig into today. It's always exciting to see you all here, and we wanted to. I've actually got a list of some things to discuss. Um, First of all, I wanted to see we've been like absolutely delighted by the reaction to the Invasion of Iskandria tournament sort of thing. Who here is it has been participating in that? Who here has been a part of that? Oh, hi, Melina. Okay, Midnight, you've been in on this. Um, I wanted to dig in and see that has been such a successful event. We've had tons of feedback. We've got tons of participants, and so I kind of wanted to dig in and see what we're liking, what we're not liking about that, where we want to go with this. So, Midnight, you were the first to jump in on this. Let me. What have you liked about this event so far? And let's see, Astro, Miguel. Let me know if you've had any opportunities to get involved in that as well. Yeah, gets more people in playing and practicing. Like that's the thing. We love the setup, the structure of Berserk so much. We're just need more people in and playing. That's how we get data back. That's how we get our analytics, and that's how we can kind of turn the dials and tune that up to make it better, to make it more fun. It's especially since, as we talked about last time, we've got this new team that is, has opened up the code, is digging in, and trying to turn it into a high performance game machine. So we just need to know how everybody's experience is going with that and see where we need to turn those dials. So hey, Peg, what's going on? Just curious, Peg, have you been in the Invasion of Iskandria tournament? Would love to get your thoughts. I know Peg is usually one with easy to share his opinions. Top six just finished. Okay, so you did very well. Um, how about this? I Rather than making it such an open-ended question, let's really dig in. Um, like what is the biggest problem? What is the biggest thing you think needs changing in Berserk to be able to have a better tournament, to have a better experience? Let's dig in on that. Let's start with the critical, and then we'll move on to the more optimistic. All right. Hey, Salman. Hey, you shared your opinion with Day on that. You won every game going second and lost all games going first. Okay. So that is huge, actually. I mean, I know it's anecdotal because it's just you, but that it shouldn't have been so straight up a win loss based on when you started and when you went second. That means there is a huge advantage going second. Has anybody had a similar issue with that balance? Okay, Midnight, better tournament, integration into the game. Uh, and Peg isn't wrong, although the first tournament wasn't as severe. So we're all seeing an element of this. Okay, this is why we do these things. I mean, this is vital information actually to get back to the designers. I'll make sure I communicate that back. So, do we think the best way to even that out would be to give a better buff or a better advantage to the player that goes first? Is it a case of just knowing how the game works makes it easier to respond in the second place? How would you like to see that balanced out? What would have changed the game if you had had this when you went first? Okay, so Salm says there's a clear issue there. We just need to steal a proven idea like token on the turn of your choosing. Yeah, I mean, other games have dealt with this. There's just a direct and an obvious straight, thing where you can respond to somebody rather than being first out the gate and you don't know what their moves are going to be. Are you going to open up aggressive? Or are you going to open up defensively? So we have 2 or 3 suggestions already, so we will get that resolved. Cool. Hey, Salman, do you want to let's kind of talk about some of that right here. We've got a great, round table of some of the brightest people who play the game right here. Let's chew on that for a little bit. So starting with higher lava gives more options. Okay. The issue with the previous team is they wanted to implement something unique, but it's been years and still nothing. So time to plagiarize. Well, listen, I know I get what you're saying, man. Plagiarism is a different vibe than what we're really talking about here. All things creative. In fact, I was talking about this just recently. Everything creative is built on the back of something else. Like, I dare you to find a single story, game, song, poem that wasn't inspired by, built on top of, leapfrogged over something that had existed previously. That is the true nature of creativity. So in this case, there are a plethora of other card games out there that have been very, very successful, and brilliant teams that have worked on these, whether you want to talk about Magic, whether you want to talk about Hearthstone, whether you want to talk about any number of these games. The lessons that they learned, we do not have to relearn them. We can literally look and say, how did they solve this, and let's build on top of that. It's not plagiarism, it's improvement. How about this? It's evolution. It is scientific evolution. This is building. If we want to be the perfect card game, then we need to look at the other mistakes that have happened before, right? So let's see. Yeah, wrong word. Inspiration. That I like. Inspiration, evolution, transcendence. If we want to get totally zen on this sort of thing, is going to say we don't need to. What's the term? We don't need to reinvent the wheel here. It is a known thing in a card game that there is an advantage and a disadvantage to going first. And a lot of times it means you're the first one out the gate. You're showing your cards, and your opponent can respond to that rather than just making that daring move. And so the trick really is to, how do we ameliorate that risk of being the first out the gate? So it's something that the team knows about. I don't think the team was, as before this tournament, prepped for how prevalent and impactful that advantage would be. So Peg says we need to try a lot of things. What would you like to try, Peg? You are never one shy with your opinion on this stuff. I'm always excited when you get on board. I'm like, here we go. We're gonna get some feedback here. And, oh yeah, Midnight, you said starting with higher lava gives more options. Yes. I mean, that it might be interesting. I mean, I've seen different games that do this, that if you're the first shot, you have a bonus amount that's a little bit higher than maybe the second person will be going, and then that amount evaporates down and you're back in line once the game is rolling. So lava is not the only thing. Also in tournaments without lava, the second player advantage is even higher. Yeah. Oh, hey, there's Ness. All right. Ness, I know you've got so much going on right now. Your hands are very full, so I appreciate you showing up, man. With a trophy even, So Ness, I don't know if we're talking about the advantage that the second player has in Berserk, and working on ameliorating that. And we've got some good suggestions. It's something that is not uncommon in any card game. Hey, Scory, how's it going? And is something that other teams have dealt with. And we're kind of talking about the concept of, we don't need to figure out some innovative new world-changing fix for this. We can really just look at what has been done before in games like this, So, Lumpy, you know what? But better late than never, Lumpy. Glad you're here. Good to see you. And yeah, we're piling in on this idea of balancing out Berserk, just like any other card game, where there's an advantage to being um, to being the second player, and how do we give a plus to you being the first player that or having that first turn, and making it something where, I mean, what would be really cool is if we could even make you like excited because you got the first turn, because there's something you get there that you don't have in any other time. um, and so, I mean, I played with the idea of what if there was a kind of a rallying cry. When a battle first begins and you've got the trumpets going off and you've got like the commander giving some inspiring speech, like was in Lord of the Rings. There may come a day where the hearts of men fail them. What if there was a rallying cry, a bonus that you could pick from like two or three different things that either gave a buff or did some initial damage or something like that. So you can be like, okay, sweet. I get a nice launch when we get rolling out of the gate right here. That balances out that second term. Okay. Peg says, I'd like to try the lava replenishment instead of adding lava to your turn. Player one gets more lava. I mean, that's the first and I think most simple is like, okay, we'll just start you with a little more gas in your tank, basically. Number two, or player one gets a lava token, which they can activate for. I always prefer, especially in a strategy game like this, having something where the player has options. So I like that idea of a token allowing you to say, hey, I'm going to take the hit that's going to come from going first, but I'll have something in my tank down the road. I like giving you that option. Okay, so Peg says, what I've experienced is that as long as you have lava to play for, the expertise of the player will always come out. But if at the start you can move too fast, the game could be over too soon. Okay. So basically, what um, we want to give enough options so that by the time that second turn has rolled by, it's not the end of the game. The longer games, the more intricate games, that back and forth, I think makes for a more interesting experience, a more rewarding experience, and you don't feel like you got taken down by that random number scramble. Okay. Um, Let's see. Scory says, I think people will find something to complain about. Nobody, I think it goes to how to build your deck according. Yeah, okay. That is a default in game, Scory. Gamers tend to be some of the most vociferous complainers in the world. A lot of it is because they have really strong opinions, and they've invested their creativity, their mind, and thought there. So yes, people will always complain about stuff, but that doesn't mean it's not valuable. Like getting that complaint back is called getting data back. It's called getting the information back that we can use to turn the dials and make it a better game. So Midnight says, allowing choice of mystical buffs would be cool. Yeah, that's kind of my idea. Midnight is like, what if the very first turn, whoever gets the first turn gets a choice, and I don't want to make it too complicated. What if there were a choice of 3 different buffs, and they were all kind of like rallying cry? They were things to build your courage to jump into the fray, basically. Okay. Yeah, more lava from a certain round, not immediately. That's kind of what we're talking about for option one. The idea to add shields or taunt 012 is a good idea. Yeah, again, stuff that would make you less afraid of jumping in because you're going to be taking that first hit blindly is I think going to be the cool. Lots of inspiration. Yo, Jeware said this first. Shields might be too much. That would be the sort of thing I'd balance. If it was a shield thing, it would be a case of shields that evaporate after that first turn. Something that allows you to maybe get set up. So while the second player has the advantage of responding to what you've got out there, they can't hit you immediately either. So someone says the 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5 as an example of a change in lava distribution as rounds go. Yeah. Heard from other players that played similar games, the token idea is really good. I think the most popular option that has been discussed. That's what I've seen done in some of the bigger games is that token idea, because it doesn't force you to take that advantage in the first turn if you don't want to, but just gives you a little bit more of a kick down the line. And it also is a very tactical thing now. So now if you're going second place, you know that the player that went first has that advantage, and you can start to kind of plan accordingly as you do that. Integrate it in VV. Okay, Midnight. I already love where you're going with this. Integrate it in VV so you can forge mystical potions for Berserk. That is exactly the kind of unified game universe I want to talk about doing, and that's something we're going to discuss a little bit later here. For new player, I think that means retention. The more a player plays without the field losing, the better it is. Exactly. That is one of the biggest things right there. If you are trying out a new game and you immediately lose, what is going to keep you from throwing your keyboard down and saying like I'm going to go play something else? It's something that I know I go back to a lot of the Blizzard strategies, but because they've done a lot of stuff that works, like with Hearthstone, when they are training you into the game and how to play, they set you up against several AI opponents, and they're fairly easy battles. They're battles that kind of allow you to show off what's great and show off what works best for you. And I think we need something more akin to that to get players into this. And then I think when you're ready to jump into the more PvP elements of this, I think it might be interesting to have some AI opponents that are super low level that like pretty much always lose the first couple of rounds, just because I think new players need that. I think retention is critical with a new game like this, especially when it's a game like ours where, I mean, the one thing we have to always deal with is players saying, why am I playing this and not Hearthstone? Why am I playing this and not Magic? That will always be there. And it needs to be something slightly more than, because I could potentially win money on this. We need to have our game. I want our game to stand on its own, even if it was not a profit situation. Okay, let's get caught up on. The lava mechanics still the same as today. The token could be a better idea. Quests, score. I love the idea of quests. Building out like a single player campaign in this card game is also something that Hearthstone has done a very good job at. I know Magic has done that as well, where you're basically exploring their game universe by having a battle against somebody who's got an expertise in red mountain mana or black swamp mana, and all their dialogue and stuff coming out of that is kind of expository to learning about that world. And I think that would be a lot of fun as well. Achievement unlocks, great idea, Scory. Being able to play AI to learn which ones we have is very blah. Yeah, I agree. We need to. I think we should combine these ideas, having storytelling AI battles where you're learning about the world as you're learning about how to play against a certain type of deck, learning how to be strategic on this sort of thing. Peg says, for now, hey, Rox, good to see you. I only understand if my deck is good or not for opening. And that is a valid reason for that. I think eventually having the option of your campaign story-based AI battles that are very, kind of tutorial, and then just having, I can now set up a battle with a random AI, and I would even like to give you dials to turn. So you can say, I want to go against a very like aggro player. I want to go against a very defensive player. I want to go against a player who's going to, fill up their screen with units versus one who's going to use powers. All of those different types of play styles would be a great way to be able to, test out your deck there. Okay. Someone says Crystals of Fate is or was doing that too. Great single player campaign. Yeah, I've actually not dipped into that one, but I've heard good things. Mulligan balancing, when you have exchanged all 5 cards and still give all cards above 3, even though you have many ones. Yeah, I approve of any idea that allows you to be tactical. And as long as it's fairly distributed, having that option of, it's one of the scary / interesting, sexy parts about this game is you can have the most beautiful deck in the world, but if the delivery of those cards is unbalanced or, heavily weighted towards resources or towards, spells or characters, you can still lose with this best deck ever. And so a lot of that mulligan advantage, and maybe you could even have a token like we talked about that allows you 1 mulligan at any point in the game. That might be too powerful. I don't know, but that could be an interesting thing to play with as well. Okay, Peg says, Cam, Hex has a very balanced way to offset going first or not. The best so far, I think. Okay, you know what? That's very true, and I'm glad you brought that up, by the way, Peg, as a nice segue, because I really want to start bringing more focus around to hexagonals. I think we've got a lot of fun things in the works for this, a lot of fun ways we're going to build this into the greater universe. So can I do a show of hands or of just like thumbs up or whatever? Who in this chat, we've got about 10 people in this chat, has played Hex thus far? I just want to get to know like how familiar we are with that to see if we can dig in on this. So Salmon, of course, Peg. Okay, Scory did. So Scory could maybe, get him a little more familiar. Astro, Midnight. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, we're about 5 in on that. Okay, I think that's enough to at least, have a rough discussion. You played less than 10 times, Lumpy. Okay. Tested it from the early stages. Yeah, it's a fascinating game, and it's one of these tactical games that has so many different ways of turning out and so many different ways of being victorious. The integration of the various units and how you're going to use those units, the uniqueness of the map. So I would really like to make it more of a something that excites people when they get in. I know a lot of times, something that's a little more maybe adrenaline focused or approach like our Royale or like Tartarus might be more, it seems sexier when you get on board. I know something like a card game like Berserk might seem more approachable. I want to look at, because there's something really great about Hex that allows you to get a sense for kind of the Greek origins, the military elements, the divine elements. And again, I think so much smart game design has gone into this, like balancing out the going first element. I think would be a great way to introduce people to our universe. So I'm curious. Okay, Peg says, in Hex, you don't get the feeling to lose until you're almost at the end game. Only downside is sometimes it's too long now. Yeah. Which is the good thing in Berserk. And they're different types of games, and they have different degrees of attention. I would love to look at playing with different versions of Hex, even where you could do. I want a Hex quickie. How can I get in and do a very short blister round sort of thing versus a longer campaign? I think there are ways you could do that by controlling the number of units, the way that you start out and everything. And so, but I'm curious. Okay, out of who said this? So Lumpy, I'm curious for you. And there's some of you and Scory as well. You got in, you played the game, but you didn't stick around. You didn't play it a whole lot. Was there something about the game itself that made you say, kind of fun, but I'm not sticking to you? Or how about this? What would make that a game that you would want to go back to, that you would want to return to? Scory's a fan of quickies. Aren't we all, my friend? Yes. But yeah, Lumpy and Scory would be very curious. Apart from just having a quicker game, what would get you more involved? What would get you to return? Okay. So yeah, so Scory, you're really not 100% sure, but it's games last too long. So it's a commitment, the commitment of playing the game, that it's going to be more time. Miguel says, I think having the fantasy game, Vulcan 11 implemented and playable via Vulcan X would be a game changer. Okay, I'm not sure. Let's table that, Miguel. Lumpy Land, no competition. So Lumpy, does that mean you felt like it was too easy? Like you needed to have a higher sense of competition with your opponent? Astro says, I think the notion of assets being diverted away from the flagship is what turned me off about Hex. I want Vulcanverse to be the focus. Okay, that is honestly been kind of my mission, Astro. Being on with the studio is bringing that focus in. So, like Midnight, like Kath Lady said, if we could do a better job of saying doing this in Hex and gathering these resources in Hex will be directly, meaningful in Vulcanverse. Whether you will get armor or weapons or resources to build things. Do you think that would turn it on for you a little bit more? Yes, Lumpy should offer his thoughts on Berserk. Sure. The game can be a little long. Playing against someone that doesn't know what to do is not fun. Okay. So it really sounds like I've had a few versions of this where it's the opponent sort of thing. Do you think it would be advantageous to have more AI constructed? They're what we call curated battles. By curated, I mean we've actually set it up so that there is kind of a buildup of tension, a competitive moment, and then a strong, interesting, fulfilling victory for you as going through. It seems like that might be give you a better like taste of what's more good about this game rather than having to slog through with somebody who's like, I know in Hex a war of attrition is the very worst thing where you're just like, okay, like you can already see the victory coming, but it's 10 moves down because they're taking forever to get there, sort of thing, right? So Scory says, same as Berserk, how to create a good deck. Yeah, I mean, obviously, any game where you're going to have an opponent who is doesn't know their game, it's always going to drag on a little bit. We can't guarantee a PvP with two human beings is always going to be a great battle. That's for sure. So I guess there needs to be some allowance for that. But I wonder if there aren't some ways that we can mix that up a little bit. Lumpy says, I was also not sure of how the units were different from each other and why to select them. Okay, that's great, actually. That feedback is great. And it was one of my very first comments when I played through this. I want to be able to, if I hover my mouse over a unit, have in very quick order an understanding of why they're great and why they suck. Right now it's kind of hard to see that. It's hard to tell who will be good at what, and even the I'm going to get in a little bit of the user interface. Even the artwork we have around these units makes it kind of hard to tell. They're kind of, and I understand why he's gone with very realistic art. Like the hoplite spear guys look like dudes with spears. The archers look like dudes with bows and arrows. The basic guardsmen just have their swords, but they don't stand out. I wish we had an immediate silhouette that made it super clear who these characters are. Again, I'm going to refer now to Warcraft 3. Warcraft 3 is a similar sort of game where you've got a top-down view of these different units as they go against each other. And when you create an orc infantryman, it's bulky. It's got those huge red shoulder pads with spikes coming out of it. The sound, they're like zug zug. It is like you're me like this is a bruiser. Versus if you click on an elf wizard or something like that, they're slender, they're blue, they've got that kind of magical aura around them. I believe they speak in a British accent when they talk on them, and so it's a very clear like, oh, these are the glass cannon long distance range characters. And I think we need to turn up that silhouette dial on each of these units to make it more clear. So you don't have to be like, oh, I've got to read a fucking paragraph to figure out what's going on. It's a case of, obviously, that's my frontline soldier. Boom. Obviously, that is my long distance character. This one is my, I think we need to make that more clear. Okay. Sorry. I'll get off my soapbox about this. I'm big on silhouette in games like this. Okay. Peg says, Cam, recently I thought that for now our games are played by the community, but not from the right player. We must play VV in a sense, and this gather players that maybe don't like the genre, but they have to play it. Okay, let's table that, Peg. I think that's a good conversation to jump in on. But let me read through the rest of these, and then we'll come back to that. Even an updated video of the game explaining why they're playing. Midnight, that is actually a great suggestion. Having something that, like, if we did a sexier, like show off the cool stuff going on in this, because there have been so many changes since then. I want to show that this is not a game that is in some beta level of testing right now. Like, this game fucking works, and it's great. That's a great idea. I'm actually going to bring that one up. Lumpy says, I know a range unit was good for range attack, but the various melee units I cannot wrap my mind around. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Lumpy. Like the use and value of these units should be visually obvious just from the get-go. I want to work on doing more sounds, better sounds there as well. And Peg says, I joined VF because of Berserk, and then asked to play VV as a pain, which you cannot ask the opposite of an MMOR. Okay, so Peg, let's jump into this because I do want to get everybody's thoughts on this. A lot of my focus, I got on board, and Vulcan Forge had like almost 20 games, and there were a few of them were kind of Greek-ish, but we also had some weird like toddler type games and some match games and some and some of them looked futuristic, and so I really wanted to bring everything in to a cohesive universe that could tie together. And it seemed to me the best anchor for that was the Vulcanverse, because it's a place where you're not jumping in and you immediately have to play or compete. You have some time to like walk around and explore and see some things. And so that just seemed like for me the best stage and had the most space for storytelling. Now you bring up a very good point. What if there are players who just want to play Berserk? They didn't come because they want to wander around and be magical. They wanted to build a great deck and get in. I think that is the real challenge. Is can Berserk be absolutely playable by itself and enjoyable by itself without having to go into the Vulcanverse? I think it should. I think the game needs to stand on its own. My belief is that an MMORPG has the widest and most shallow on ramp, if that makes sense, for players who play other types of games, who get in. I think any of the cool, good stuff that you can get from playing through Vulcanverse should not be required in Berserk or any of these other games, but should be added fun and added dressing. While there are players like some of you have mentioned who are just have no interest in this other game, you should not have to go into Vulcanverse. And I want to be clear. Like, I hope it doesn't sound like I'm saying I'm requiring you to go get your visa stamped, to use popular terminology in this thing, to enjoy the game. It's just going to be something where, like, oh, if you want to explore a little more, I don't think you should even have to go into Vulcanverse and like buy property or fight a dragon or whatever. If you did want to say, okay, how am I going to get this extra bit or this fun skin or in Vulcanverse, you should be able to get in, walk to the pub, grab that, and walk out. That's my overall philosophy, if that makes sense. So Midnight says, Lumpy. Oh, sorry, I'm just kind of reading down through all this. Okay, Miguel, you said you guys are aware what Vulcan 11 is, a football fantasy platform we have bought a few years back. Game implemented. Yeah, Miguel, I have no idea what that is. Bringing that game to life in Vulcan actually be a lot of eyes. I mean, yeah, we've got so many games right now that I'm trying to like get shaped into our universe. I didn't know we even had that property. Is it a property or an engine or whatever? Hypothetically speaking, having a fantasy football type game. I know Games Workshop has a fantasy football type game called Blood Bowl that's actually like super fun and ridiculous. And it's basically orcs and elves and dwarves playing with a spiked football. And so there's like murder, death, kill stuff going on, as well as touchdowns. That's a lot of fun. However, that is something that it's probably going to be a little bit further down on the slate, because we've got all these other games we've got to get involved. We're still working on Tartarus and Berserk and some of these other games to get them involved. But thank you for bringing that up. I will bring that up in our next meeting. Okay, Astro says, Cam, any updates on Tartarus integration? Will it be group or solo experience? Yes. Let me look at so we're hoping to have a version of Tartarus going live this week. I can't commit much more than that. This is just what we're hoping to have available for you. The team is right now kind of crossing the last bits of the T's and dotting the I's to get that through. But yes, we're going to have something for you to get your teeth into this week. And then next week, I'm going to really dig in and get some of your thoughts and reactions on that. So that's kind of some of the fun news we've got. We're thinking about doing one of the reasons I've been pushing with Hex right now is we're looking about doing a Hex tournament at the end of this month too. And just like we're doing this with Berserk, I want to use it to get more data on how to better improve this game. So so everything you're saying right here is going into the pot. I want you to bring this critical mindset to the Hex tournament when we go in. How can it be done better? What are the elements that would be improving your experience, et cetera, et cetera. So, all right. Any thoughts on having a mode in VV where you can die and respawn, like Landowner could create a platforming? Okay, Scory, that's interesting. I've actually not thought along those lines. Tell me, what would be in your mind the fun, the win, the advantage of having that in there? Okay, Ness was no Ness is a little bit of an old school gamer like me. I believe we have talked about Warhammer and 40K stuff. So Blood Bowl, killer idea, honestly. Okay. So Hypernova, hi Hypernova, would love a quick look back option in VV, like a button to press. Like, are you talking like literally a camera swap sort of thing? I mean, that's always great, especially because I guess you could say that Vulcanverse interactivity is not as bouncy and like Super Mario as we would like sometimes. So it might be nice to have that. Check behind me, see if there's a Medusa back there or something. Or a swing camera, Lumpy. Yeah. Okay. So is that a general thought of like just like wishing for a little more visual acuity, agility as we play? Let me know. I mean, that right there is actually not a hard ask. Okay. Peggy says, shrink the product for now, make the ones we have a blast. That's kind of my focus, man. Like getting on board immediately. The very first thing I did was like, let's stop this game, stop this game, stop this game. Don't even try to support it. There's a reason these discussions we've been having right now are focused on Vulcanverse, Berserk, on Hex, on Tartarus, and very little mention of everything else right now. Because I think if we can polish these games and make these games next level, then we can expand our view on this. But I would rather have a community built around 3 or 4 brilliant games than the one that is like kind of apathetically, oozing into a dozen games that are like lower quality. So, okay. Midnight. I know a lot of people get lost looking for the bracket in DC. Okay. Challenging path to jump from spot to spot and have a quest. XP reward to reach the goal. Okay, Scory. Sorry, is that in response to on the die and respawn sort of thing? Okay. Let's see. Forget about this so we can focus on Berserk. Okay. We know that Berserk is a priority. I want you all to know Berserk is a priority for us as well. It is just with that switching of teams and that needing to figure out the combination code on the safe and have this new team get inside. It's taken longer than we thought. We want them to take the time it will take to do this right, though. That and so that really has been like my focus. I think we've got too many projects in our universe that have been just kind of hyperactively jumped on just because it seemed like a good idea at the time, and that's why there's so many of them that feel unfinished, that feel lower quality. And so we're trying to cut off the fat here and really focus on what's great. So Lumpy says swing cameras for better photos. Yeah. Astro says, Cam, recently we have seen some lag and FPS issues with boss fights. Is this an easy issue to resolve? Okay, not an easy issue, unfortunately, because our game is not a game that where we are deliberately talking about high-end graphics, asking you to put them in high-end computers, because of the nature of the engine that we use. Every issue of lag, there are about 100 different possible avenues we can chase that down. Is it the user computer? Is it a shared thing? Who is it happening to? What battles is it happening in? And so if this is something that the you players are seeing with a higher regularity, we just need to know, where is it happening? Is it happening with just one boss? Is it happening generally across the board? That is the data that will be most valuable for us. And if you wouldn't mind, I mean, this is the sort of thing that we need, these data points. So please share that on the Discord, and I'm sure you already have. So the ADD of projects. Yeah, midnight. That's what it has been. It really, and a lot of it is, because the core team, when I got on board, like one of the things I love about the team here and Jamie and everybody that's a part of this is like an absolute love of how much fun we're having and how exciting it is to make these games. It's just, yeah, I think it's that lack of focus as what has pulled away from an overall quality level. So Peg says, I would play more VV if really the quest will have more meaning. Yeah, and that is our next step. So who has gone in and now seen our new cinematic with a very handsome voice and those first quests? Have we had a chance to get an experiment with that? Peg loved it. All right, thank you, man. So that vibe of being welcomed in, having somebody that's kind of like holding your hand, is the vibe we want to extend out. I want to make your whole exploratory adventuring experience in that vein. It's going to take time as we put those bricks on. A lot of what we wanted to do is to see what is your experience like. Are we enjoying that? And it sounds like our feedback up until now has been people are enjoying that. Because yeah, it is a short little quest to get the apple and everything. Vulcan City is very slow lately. Yeah, and that's what we're trying to fix. In fact, that's something else we wanted to dig into a little bit. You like the perfect start? Awesome. Needs a replay button. I would love that. That's something I would like to push for in again in World of Warcraft. You have a cinematics option on the loading screen. You can just literally go back and watch that whenever you want. And then the plan is, of course, to have more of these. I would like to have eventually an introductory cinematic to each of the games. So imagine getting a little bit of story before you go into Tartarus to explain what's happening in Tartarus. A little bit of story before you go into Berserk, explaining why the gods are playing this card game, right? A little bit of an explanation before you go into Hexagonus and talking about the tactical history of what's going on right there, I think would really bring everything together in a nice way. Okay, Peg, look at the initial screen spot on. Thank you so much, man. Like I spent way more time than I usually do. Like as a creative director, my job is usually to be kind of hands off and to more hold up a torch for the team to follow and let them go. But that beginning screen, it is your very first introduction to this world. And so I actually went in and I mean, Ness can show you, I've literally did a sketch over of what was there, of the presentation that, this is you creating your character. And if we're leading you in from that with Cadmus talking about this, you needed to feel like this is more than just a dress up a doll situation. This is godly power, lightning coming up through the pillar and infusing you with this energy, And I got pretty picky about it. Even like if you'll notice, there's a full moon. It used to be like centered in like behind that temple in the back there, and it felt a little too perfect. So I even was like, I was that jerk that I'm like, okay, scoot the moon over, a little more, stop, no, back. I was that guy because the beginning is so important. One of my favorite books of all time is Dune by Frank Herbert. And one of the lines from that is the beginning is a very delicate time. What that means is like, if you've got a mathematical angle like this, the smallest little bits of change you can make right here at the beginning will have wide-ranging consequences down the road. And I kind of try to use that philosophy in a lot of my design. And the very first screen you see, it's just vital that felt right. So Peg, I'm glad you like that. Thank you for sharing that. Voice cues are mega. All games more audio. That is something that the game we definitely need more of, is getting some more of that stuff. Again, the first work we did with that introduction was to kind of tease at what was going on right there. Having an actual guide that leads you into the temple, shows you where the apple is. So many have put in chat, where's the apple? That is fantastic input, Midnight. I think, like I said, the beginning is a very delicate time. If you have somebody who gets into your game and immediately is like, where's the apple? You shouldn't have to go to chat to try to figure out the first quest in the game. And so we're playing with the idea of having a mini map that where the apple is actually like a little flashing icon on that, so you can kind of map yourself there, and then doing that kind of breadcrumbing, like we call it in games, to get you there. If I get a diamond, I want the avatar to say, "Oh, look, I got a diamond." Yes, yes. Give some personality, give some character to your avatar. Astro, we need to voice act the fast traveling merchant. The plan is to eventually give everybody in there a voice. Peg, if you've ever read an Italian accent, okay. Well, I mean, maybe we need to have. I mean, it seems like there should be some representation there, right? NPCs like King Lecohen, exactly. The Mario voice generators for that. It's a me. I mean, like finding that sweet spot between Mario and the Greek gods is going to be. I think that's where the magic is going to lie in this game. Like when you get the new interact, this could trigger baselines for the NPC. Yeah, yeah. In fact, what I would love to do. This is my dream mode. I'll say this, and I can already hear our dev team like sweating on the other side. But I would love for when you go in and create your character that you can actually pick not just a voice type like high, medium, low, aggressive, friendly, whatever, but a kind of a personality that goes behind that. Is your character respond to things with excitement, with aggression, with with wonder, and then do voiceover responses that are in character with that as you go through the game. That is for me the end of the line on our character design right there. Okay. Lumpy says it was not hard to find the apple. People are so lazy. Lumpy, that's all. Listen, for those of us who are professional gamers, they're always going to seem like there are those who don't know. But we just, even if they are lazy, we want anybody who gets on board to have a good time. Like a game should never feel like work. A game should never feel like it's smarter than you, even though it is. The game should never feel like it's something that is, putting you outside of your comfort zone. And especially here at this intro thing, like we can absolutely build up like Elden Ring level of difficulty down the road, but we want to have a warm and gentle. We want to give you a big, Vulcan Forged hug as you come in the game and make you feel like this is the best place ever, so that you will stay and build our community out, sort of thing. So Scory says, great job on the intro. I was mind blown. Couldn't believe that was the VV. The Apple Quest was simple but good. Grab from there and give it to that guy. Flashback on my favorite games. Scory, that is high praise right there to make a Zelda comparison right there. That's awesome. I'm glad you like that. It was something that pushing that in with this team. There were some raised eyebrows. There were some people that were kind of opposed to this idea because it wasn't the sort of thing that had a direct win associated with it. Like, how do we win by having an opening cinematic? Isn't the big win going to come down the road? And I just always believe that if you can build from the very get-go an experience that feels more AAA, the wins will deliver themselves down the line. And if we eventually do want to build out, like I said, more cinematics, more of that walkthrough, more of that guided handheld experience, I just needed to see if this works. And so you guys are making my day right now. It's so great to hear that this is actually landing for you. Okay. Asking a lot of love some Zelda and giving personalities. Yeah, it could be, but it's not as hard as you might think. If we come up with, let's say, 3 to 5 personalities that these avatars can have, that just means we come up with 3 to 5 different responses for things coming through, which in a voiceover session is just like, okay, you just got the apple. Give me 3 different responses. The nice response, oh, thanks for the apple. The aggressive response, an apple, whatever, or the wondrous response, oh, this is the most beautiful apple. In a matter of 10 seconds, I've got all those recordings done through, and it's surprisingly a lot more easy. And the result on the end of having players who feel like their character is a representation of the personality that they want there is enormous. It's a very good return on investment doing that for sure. Regarding devs and budget, we can use AI to drop. Yeah, honestly, AI is taking a much bigger role in this sort of thing. I'm yet to hear some really good, convincing AI voiceover stuff. It is something that's still fairly strongly in the we need a human there category. But I have no doubt, in another year or so that'll change. The AI is progressing at such a ridiculous rate. And yeah, I kind of prep for that. But in the end, as a director, whether it's AI or an actor that's doing it, I just want to make sure that the end result is something that delivers an amazing experience to our audience, to you players. So, oh, there's Danger Mouse. Welcome, welcome. If you build it, they will come. Exactly, Midnight. Like you build a beautiful opening. You build a place where they want to stay. And I think that's how you build trust with your audience, with your community, to know that, hey, if they did this great on the opening, on the welcome, this is how they know that future deliveries will be in that flavor, I guess. So we're saying, let's see, Peg says a builder should have a strong, heavy voice, fighter, very aggressive. Yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking about. But I also think I want to put those tools in your hands as players, because if you wanted to experience to play with, like, what would it be like to have a very like slender, agile, archer type character, but with an aggressive, heavy voice, and you wanted to play with that funny paradox contradiction, you should have that ability. That is something that I don't want to hand down my impression of what a character should be, because I'm not the one that's going to be living in this universe, building in this universe, creating this universe. I want you to have the tools to make something as cool, as badass, or as ridiculous as you want to, because this is your world, and I want it to feel like that. So Midnight, we should green screen you for the characters. Great, thank you. Yeah, I might have already put too much of my thumbprint by doing the voice of Cadmus in this game. We will find some other actors with way better, more interesting faces than this ugly mug for sure. But thank you. Whatever father gods used to crazy voices. Yeah, I'm gonna be Cadmus for now, because Cadmus is who I would like to be our guest, or not our guest, our host. He is also a demigod like you. I feel like he's kind of on a similar journey. He's just been here a little longer. So Cadmus is like, he's not like the father of the gods. Cadmus is like the welcoming older brother, if that makes sense. And that is the vibe that I think people need as they get in, is like, who is this person that will welcome us in? Like I told you, my brother Ethan actually got in and played a little bit just to get to know the community. And some of you were so great in reaching out and kind of playing that older brother to him, getting on board. And so like that was a test experience I was doing here to see what is the vibe that's going to work here with this community. So Peg says, I would like a funny and hilarious hype master strider. Yeah, okay. So see, we're already coming up with character, what we call them archetypes, right? These character styles, where the Strider type character for Lord of the Rings, the one who is shadowy, has got a dark past, but is loyal and friendly in there. Like, we need that type of character in the game. We want a character that is wild and crazy, and you never know what they're going to do next. We want a character that is like maybe warm and nurturous, but maybe a little guarded. Like, all of these profiles, having them as characters that we can interact with in the game is going to build out a stronger sense of a unique place, a sense of home, and a place that we can really enjoy. All right, we're about at the top of the hour here, folks. This feedback has been incredible. Again, I'm going to we're going to try and really turn the focus to Hex over this next week. Get in, play. I want you to get in with a dev mindset, meaning like not just like, I don't like this, I do like this, but like, what would I do to change this? I mean, you've all essentially been recruited as my own personal VIP elite squad to go in, play the game, and give me feedback in the on Discord on the Cameron's Canyon right there, so that we can make this game better for everybody. And I know that's asking a lot of you, but I know you're up to it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. We will be checking back in. I'm not going to be able to get back next week I'm going to be doing a little bit of travel. So it's going to be the week after that we go in. So we're just going to work on collecting all of your info. Sure love talking with y'all. Hope you have a great week. Y'all take care.